We left on, say, January 67. Picked up the scientist again at Andrews outside of Washington, D.C. Flew off to Alameda, to Hoboken of San Francisco. And from there went to Mexico City, I believe, yes. Mexico City. And we've been there before. I survived without Montezuma's revenge this time. On our takeoff to Guayaquil, Ecuador, a coastal city in Ecuador, was in the evening from Mexico City. I think I tell you about this before. It was very warm and humid where we took off. It's 7,500 feet altitude there. We normally fly at 8,000 feet. So we're only 500 feet below our normal cruising altitude. So takeoff was kind of touchy with the full load of fuel we had on. We ran out to the end of the runway, it seemed, and the pilot lifted up the landing gear, and that defined taking off. The gear was up, so I guess we're airborne. And we proceeded down along the Mexican coast, South American coast, to Ecuador. A hot, steamy, smelly town again. And we stayed 3 days there. There was nothing of note there, other than we were being in one of their parks, and there was a sign on the tree, "No pisi de plantas." I guess it means don't pee in the plants, which apparently was a big problem down there. But the Ecuadorian natives, they're the indigenous population, which is the majority of the people. The women wore those fedora hats, like you see the Inca women wearing in National Geographic, you know, the round brim, round crown, man's hat, basically. Well, that was the common hat wear. It was everywhere in the hot, steamy weather. The exciting part was the flight from Guayaquil south along the South American coast, and we're headed for Rio, which was on the east coast of South America and Brazil. So to get from the Pacific to the Atlantic, basically, across central South America, which meant you had to get over the Andes. And to get over the Andes, that means we had to be at least 24,000 feet to clear the peaks. And to ask our old airplane to get that high was quite an accomplishment. It took us 1 hour to get from 8,000 to 24,000 feet. All 4 engines roaring at top RPM. The exhaust ports were glowing red in the dark. And it was a beautifully clear night. I can remember passing over the peaks of the Andes, the snow-capped Andes. And this was summer. It was summer down there. But these beautiful moonlit, starlit night at 24,000 feet, crossing the Andes Mountains was quite spectacular. And that was about the time that airplane crashed in the Andes, and some South American soccer team was stranded for quite a long period of time. And they wound up having periods of cannibalism, I think. But anyway, that was certainly on my mind as we crossed over the top of the Andes. And basically just kind of took a deep breath and coasted into Rio, which was down at sea level again. And I really can't distinguish the different trips in Rio. I'd have to look at my slides to see the different things I did. But again, we stayed out on the beach, on the Copacabana beach. And I was always looking for the girl from Ipanema. That was in Rio. The restaurants there were, the big thing was steak, Argentine steak. Was the big main meal on most of the restaurants. Argentina is a huge beef producer, and quite a not necessarily a delicacy, but it just is a common restaurant meal. The amount of poor people. Now Rio was a phenomenally wealthy resort town, but you'd walk out your hotel room and you're swamped with street urchins. These like young boys, 7, 8 years old, with shoe shine kits. Look at that, and there'd be hands in your pockets, and what they did to get you to get a shoe shine was they dabbed shoe paste on your shoe, say, "Oh, look, mister," in their Portuguese, "you need a shoe shine." So you're stuck there with that. Whether you had a shiny shoe or not, you got a big gob of shoe paste on your shoe. So you have your shoe shined. Can't think of anything else I did there of note. I think the last time I told you that I did go to the top of that mountain that has the statue of Christ on it. Took the incline railroad up the top. But I didn't go out to Sugarloaf Mountain because it just looked too tricky getting on a Brazilian cable car going across that bay. I figured that was something I'd rather postpone. And from Rio, we flew to Cape Town. And that's either my second or third trip to Cape Town. And they're all quite indistinguishable in my mind. I think I already talked to you about seeing the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans where they meet off Cape Hogarth. From Cape Town, we flew to Mauritius, I believe, and I've already been there. Told you. The thing I remember about Mauritius was the contrast between the two hotels. Well, I stayed in the 2 different times I was there. One time I was on the windward side. It is one of those typical mountainous tropical islands, where and the wind blows mostly one way, constantly all year long. And on the uphill, where the wind blows up the mountainside, you get a lot of condensation and rain, and then a kind of a rainforest environment. And then on the other side, the leeward side, you have the water is all wrung out, because of all the rain happened on the other side. And you also have this phenomenon called downslope warming, where when the air goes down the side of a mountain, it tends to get warmer. I won't go into the physics of that. I can't, by the way. So anyway, the air gets hotter and drier on the leeward side. So the one side of that island is a rainforest, and the other side is semi-desert. I do have some photographs of the dry side. The Philippines, or not the Philippines, the Hawaiian Islands are very similar. You have a rainforest environment where most of all the tourist business happens. And then on the dry side is where the Navy base is. Navy Air Base, I think it's called Barbers Point. I think Pearl Harbor's over there somewhere. Also kind of dry, whereas the main touristy part of the big island in Hawaii is lush and kind of rainforest area. But I'm getting off the topic. We left Mauritius for Singapore. Singapore was our destination? No, our destination was Singapore. About halfway through across the South Indian Ocean on our way to Singapore, the winds were not favorable. We don't get a very good weather briefing on a place like that because there aren't a lot of reporting stations on the South Indian Ocean to let you know what the weather's going to be like. So sort of take off assuming the worst, but yet the worst sometimes happens. And we got low on fuel. And we looked around for a place to land, and if you look off the southeast tip of India, several hundred miles towards Indonesia, there's a speck, Cocos Islands, owned by Australia. And it's just a dot. So we flew in there and figured we must be the first time our crew has ever been to this place. And our crew has been all over the place. So we went into the flight operations office after we got refueled to file our flight plan for our flight on to Singapore. We had one of our squadron patches that we were going to give to them to hang on the wall. And by God, there was already one there. So our squadron, our group had been there before. Not the date wasn't there, but sometime in the past, a crazy squadron had been there. We gassed up after a couple hours and started our adventure around Singapore. Now Singapore I've been to before. I had told probably all my tales combined in Singapore. As I say, it was another one of those hot, smelly cities. And from Singapore we went on to where? Guam. Oh well, went to Guam, of all places, which is to the east of the Philippines, probably halfway to Hawaii. Maybe not quite halfway. And we went into Guam, and one of our crew members was from Guam. And his whole family, of course, was expecting him. They threw a big party for us on the beach, under a palm tree. At that time, we just drove down that 2-lane road until we came to a spot to say, this looks good. And this was like a postcard setting of a tropical island with palm trees, sandy beach, and nobody else around. So we, all that family, must have been 30, 40 people, got out, dug a pit and put a pig on the spit. And we had a roast pig, roast chickens, a real honest-to-God luau on this beautiful spot of beach, on a beautiful island with nobody else around. Since then, it's become quite a tourist place, especially for Japanese. So I bet you can't find that empty spot of beach on that island anywhere. We took a friend of mine and I got rented a motorcycle when we toured around the perimeter of the island and came across a monument to Magellan, who had landed there on his famous trip, whenever he did that. But it was overgrown with weeds and nothing special about this place where it was. We kind of hacked our way in and found this kind of large tombstone thing that was commemorating Magellan's stop there in some early 1600s, I guess. After Columbus, of course. And then we left Guam to Quadston, I believe.
Yokota.
Oh, okay. We went to straight to Japan this time. Yokota, the U.S. naval base outside of Tokyo. I think I took the bullet train when I was there one time. And as advertised, it's incredibly fast and incredibly crowded. Just like being on the New York subways, traveling over 100 miles an hour, but not underground, above ground. I can't remember anything other than, like I took also the city bus around. Not the city bus, but whatever buses they have out there. I guess it was a city bus. And well, I noted that none of the houses in Japan, the private homes, seemed to have any gardens. They were all just like right up to the sidewalk. They're not the house, and as far as I could see, no backyard, just another house. So the houses side by side by side, with no separation of note, and all like 1 or 2 story houses. Right up to the sidewalk, and a very narrow sidewalk. And very narrow streets. and they're all made of wood, all very tidy, but so crowded. I can imagine the firebomb attacks in World War II against Tokyo, how they just spread so fast, all this wood construction so close together. That's been incredible.
Where do they get the wood from?
And where do we go? The wood
Wait,
was,
huh?
the wood was, they got that from Japan. Japan does have forests up in the north. They're pretty well wiped out by now, but they import, all the natural resources are imported in Japan. Fuel, oil, steel. They're a huge manufacturing facility, but they have very little, if any, natural resources other than fish. American beef is imported there. So from Tokyo
Wake.
to Wake Island. Wake is, again, one of those nowhere islands in the middle of the Central Pacific. I think that was about my birthday. If I recall, I celebrated my birthday February 15th on Wake Island. Absolutely nothing there. There's no town. Just a military base on this sandy atoll. It had a crescent-shaped island with this lagoon in the center. Just about big enough to hold the airstrip, and that was all. Goony birds all over the place. They're like albatross, I think, albatross, big seagoing, gull-type birds. So where do we go from Wake?
Pick 'em.
Wake back to Hawaii for the zillionth time. Hawaii to where?
Pick 'em. Oh.
Oh, how many people do you know fly from Honolulu to Acapulco, Mexico? One resort, tropical type to another. Probably nobody. I don't think there's any scheduled airline will do that. Fly you from Hawaii to Acapulco, Mexico. So, especially in 1967, whatever it was. So I thought that was a unique thing to do.
It's a long flight.
How long was it?
16 hours.
16 hours. Pretty much average for us, I think.
Yeah.
I think we stayed in a kosher hotel, the Posada del Sol. In Acapulco, I did go to see the famous cliff divers, but it wasn't like just going out and see people dive off cliffs. The only views you can get were from private property that were owned by nightclubs, or day clubs, nightclubs. And you had to sit down and order a drink in order to watch these guys dive off the cliffs. And it was just as advertised. It was very high cliffs with these guys jumping off and doing headers right into the water. I guess they don't live very long beyond 40, early 40s, because their brain kind of gets turned in bush after hitting the water so many times. That's a high velocity. So that was one of my larger disappointments in life, seeing these cliff divers, which you had to see from a nightclub.
During the day.
Well, you could see them during the night. Was a big deal. During the day, they were open, but you had to pay to buy a drink or something. And they also had those parachute rides from speedboats, where you take off the shore and then drag you back and forth from the beach. You see that. It's quite popular now in beach resorts.
We saw that in Nice.
And Nice. Oh, what I remember seeing in Nice was not parachutes with bare breasts.
We saw the same thing. Quality diminished as you get further out from the central.
I don't think the quality diminished at all in Nice when I was there.
Yeah.
Anyway, where did I go from Acapulco? Oh, back up to Alameda, which is again a suburb of San Francisco, across the San Francisco Bay, just outside of Oakland. So we could take a ferry boat just across, like a 15-minute ferry ride to downtown San Francisco financial district. It was, as I say, it was a Hoboken of San Francisco. And from there and went back to Andrews to lead the scientists off. And,
Corpus Christi.
oh, Corpus Christi. We did not go back directly. We thought of Corpus Christi, Texas. I don't know why, and I can't remember a thing about it. I'd been there before for a period of 4 months in 1964. It's where I went to advanced navigation school. That's kind of a nowhere spot
For some reason,
on the southeast coast of Texas.
they have you going on a flight on the 26th. That's Corpus Christi to Corpus Christi, 7.3
Yeah,
hours.
we did several of those. We just fly out and back, filling in some of the tracks of the world that we had to, probably over the Gulf of Mexico. And then from there we went back out to Andrews Air Force Base at Washington.
It says here you went directly to PAX.
Oh, well, the scientist must have driven home. It's only about a half hour, no, not a half hour, an hour drive back up to Andrews.
No, tell me a question. Where did the scientists normally work?
They worked in Washington, D.C. The scientists we took around were out of the Naval, then it was called the Hydrographic Office. Now it's NOAA, N-O-A, National Oceanographic and Aeronautical Subbrother. But they were stationed in Washington, D.C. And that's why we picked them up at Andrews Air Force Base usually. I guess I was up there. The very first month I was in that squadron, they sent us to a orientation school that they held once a year or so for our crew, the new guys up there, both the sailors and the officers. And they talked all about their mission they did in both Project Magnet and the water temperature group that I occasionally flew on. We did water temperature analysis of the Gulf Stream off the coast of central the U.S.